Good day, everyone. Welcome to a new session here on the Shift Network Sound Healing Summit. We always appreciate having you with us. And our featured guest coming up this time around is Kelvin Young. Kelvin Young is an award-winning sound healer, recovery support specialist, and co-founder of the Soul Care Love, LLC. Kelvin is presented around the country in diverse settings, including yoga studios, retreat centers, conferences, high schools, colleges, prisons, addiction treatment centers, psychiatric hospital, and mental health agencies. He received his recovery coaching training at CT Community for Addiction Recovery and his recovery support specialist certification at Recovery University in 2011. Kelvin was also featured in a powerful documentary on trauma, addiction, and recovery called Uprooting Addiction, and he is the co-author of Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. Kelvin, welcome. Good to see you again.
Alex, very, very good to see you. Thank you so much for having me, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be here again with you today.
Yeah, well, thank you for making the time and coming back. Always appreciate it.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it. Because I often like to start these sessions asking people about their origins and how they discovered sound healing. And, in all honesty, more often than not, that's sort of like a icebreaker question.
Yeah.
But in your case, it's particularly meaningful because you do have a very powerful and inspirational story of how you came to discover this work. So
thank you.
If you're open to it, would you like just get right into that topic and tell us how you discovered sound healing and how it shaped the path that you're on now?
Absolutely. I think it's important for us to know the why we do what we do. And for me, after many years of battling with depression, anxiety, and drug addiction, I found that freedom from alcohol, from marijuana, from cocaine, from heroin, and even prescription opiates like Oxycontin, Vicodins, and Percocets. And for me, I began that healing journey in a drug treatment program within prison. And it was within that prison program that, I learned about the transformative powers of yoga, meditation, sound healing, even creative expressive arts like poetry and journaling. And, I had a lot of misconceptions about sound healing, about meditation, about yoga. And to be quite frank, Alec, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me, people of color, practicing yoga, meditation, sound healing, particularly at that time. So I really didn't think it was for me. But I know the things I was doing, prior to going to prison, it wasn't working for me no more. So I had to try something new and different. And by stepping out of my comfort zone and utilizing sound healing and meditation as a vehicle to go within, because I truly do believe that healing begins from within. I was able to find that sense of calmness and inner peace, even being in a very hostile and restrictive environment such as prison. But most importantly, I was able to understand the root causes of my experiences with addiction. And from that lived experience, I learned that it was the unhealed emotional pain that I experienced in my life, the unprocessed trauma that I endured from childhood, from adolescence, as well as the adulthood trauma, as well as the toxic chronic stress. All of that was at the root of my addiction. So for many years, I reached for something outside of myself to find that sense of relief from that distress. And for me, I found it in alcohol and other drugs, and it worked for me for a while until it didn't work anymore and got caught up in that very vicious cycle of addiction. But I can sit here today, Alec, and say that I'm grateful for all of my experiences in my life, my experiences with addiction, as well as my experiences with incarceration, because it wasn't for those experiences, I wouldn't be the man that I am today. And I learned about the transformative powers of sound while I was in prison. I never forget that my last prison bed that I did, I was in my cell, and I was still detoxing from the night before all the drugs that I consumed, the liquor, the alcohol, the cocaine, the marijuana, the heroin, the Klonopins, all these different substances I had in my body and I was detoxing from. And I thought about my daughter, Tatiana, and all the pain that I must have caused her in my active addiction. And my daughter, she was my inspiration for me to find an inner motivation to really change my life around for the better. I was at that place where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. So that window of opportunity for me to get the help that I need was open because I wanted to be the man, the father that my daughter can look up to and be proud of. So I took advantage of all the programs that was available to me while I was in prison. I was sentenced to a couple years in prison, so I had to be there. But I had an opportunity to really do some inner work I needed to do. And I was in this drug treatment program, which I think was the most influential program for me while I was in prison. And it was a 4 month program in prison. And, in there, I learned about myself. I learned about addiction, how it impacts me physically, how it impacts me mentally and emotionally, but also I believe how it impacts me spiritually as well on a soul level. But also learn tools that help me to deal with all the different types of the stresses that I experienced in my life, such as sound healing, such as yoga, meditation, creative expressive arts, poetry, journaling, all these practices I learned while I was in this drug treatment program in prison. So it was there where I had my first real experience with sound healing. And I learned how to meditate, while in prison. They had instructors. There was a person that I was incarcerated with, was doing a 20-year prison sentence. And he learned meditation from a correspondent institution while he was incarcerated. So, he was able to teach us meditation techniques while in prison. And it was a powerful experience for me. It allowed me to like center myself and connect to my body, connect to my thoughts, connect to my feelings. But being in prison, all kind of different external sounds was going on. So therefore, it was hard for me to focus and concentrate at a period of time. And to focus on my breath or to sit in silence was tough in prison because all these different sounds and activities was going on. Then I started listening to sounds. It was a station called Echoes, and they used to play different types of ambient music, sound healing music. And I remember the first time I really, really listened to an artist, Steve Halpern. And, his music really touched my soul. And when I started meditating to his music and to other ambient music, like it felt like I wasn't in prison no more. My body was there, but spiritually, mentally, emotionally, I was somewhere else in a very calm, relaxed, and serene place. And I was like, oh, I love this sound meditation. I love this practice. And I started utilizing it more and more while I was in prison. And it helped me to kind of bring me to a place of calmness, relaxation while I was incarcerated because there's a lot of negativity in prison. A lot of the correction officers used to, talk a lot of negative things to people that was incarcerated. So therefore, there was a lot of stressors that I was dealing with while in prison. And by practicing sound healing and sound meditation and yoga and all these different alternative holistic healing modalities, it helped me to really stay in my body, not to be reactive, but be reflective as well. And I realized if I could do this while incarcerated, I could do this once I returned back into my community. And that's what I did once I was released from prison. The mother of my daughter, she took me to a live sound healing session. And that experience back in 2011 just really touched my heart. I will never forget that day where hearing the sounds from the gongs, from the Himalayan singing bowls, from the crystal singing bowls, from the buffalo drums, all these different powerful sounds, particularly the sounds from the gong, it really allowed me to feel a sense of oneness to all that is. And the only words that could come to my mind when I was in that reflective state, listening to the sounds of the gong and other healing instruments or tools, it reminded me of just being in that space of unconditional agape love. And the feeling I had once I finished that session, it was like, I am in love. I am in love, with sound healing. And that's when I went to different trainings and learned from different master sound healers. And I really pay homage and gratitude to Zachariah Blackburn as well, and to David Gibson, and to Paul Hubbard, and the other sound masters that really helped me to deepen my practice. And it's been about 9 years now since I've been professionally offering sound healing sessions, not only to myself, but to other people from all over the country from different walks of life.
Thank you for sharing. That is a very inspirational story because, in general, I often think in terms of, what one of the main measuring sticks to the value of a lot of these sort of mind, body, spirit practices and sound healing is like, as much as I'm very into all what we'll call for simplicity's sake the new age and
Mhm.
esoteric and speculative things, but the real deal is always like, how does it help people like here and now in their real
Yes,
life earth walk? And what you're talking about is very real. Some of the
yes,
most challenging circumstances and environments that one could imagine. I can only imagine. I have no idea what you've really been through, but I salute you. It's a testament to the power of sound that it served as an ally to,
yes.
lead
I,
this new direction.
I love that word ally. It was really my ally while I was incarcerated. And once I was released from prison, I just really dove deep into the practice. And that's where, from my lived experience, that's where I have the passion to really working with people that's dealing with mental health, addiction, or trauma issues. And that's why I go to addiction treatment centers, I go to psychiatric hospitals, I go to mental health facilities, throughout Connecticut and beyond because of my own personal lived experience with mental health addiction and trauma issues. I'm able to have that passion to help other human beings that are dealing with similar human experiences that we go through. Because I believe that addiction is a human experience, not a human identity. And behind the so called addict, behind the so called alcoholic, is a human being that experienced a significant amount of trauma, emotional distress, and toxic chronic stress, and just looking for a sense of relief from that distress. And we live in a culture and a society that kind of conditions us to reach for something outside of ourselves when we're dealing with any type of pain, whether it's a physical pain or an emotional pain. As a kid, if I ever had a toothache or a headache, I was conditioned to reach for aspirins, Tylenol, Excedrin, what have you. And I use a physical painkiller, such as Oxycontin, Vicodins, Percocets, and heroin, to deal with an emotional pain. And it worked for me for a while. As a young kid, I dealt with a lot of mental health, emotional health issues. I dealt with a lot of self esteem issues, self worth issues. But in my household, we never talk about, mental health challenges. Back in the 80s, when the crack epidemic impacted the United States, and it really impacted the black and brown communities. And I have four older brothers, and three of my four older brothers became addicted to crack cocaine. And my oldest brother to this day is still addicted to crack cocaine. But, in my household, we didn't talk about addiction because of the stigma and discriminations around that. So we suffered in silence for a very long time. And see my older brothers reaching for alcohol and other drugs, I kind of gravitated towards that. And even though those substances gave me a temporary sense of relief from all those different types of emotional stresses that I experienced in my life, the anxiety, the post-traumatic stress, the depression, the very intense emotion that I felt since childhood, it caused more negative consequences at the end. And it wasn't until I went to prison for the fourth time when I learned about sound healing and meditation and other mind body alternative practices when I was able to look at my inner landscape in a very loving, compassionate, and non judgmental way, where I could see the habitual patterns going into that theta state of brainwave activities, where I could see all the different behaviors that was no longer serving me at this moment. And I was able to see things from a larger perspective. And once I was able to see that, that's when I was able to make some changes in my life. And I believe Albert Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. So if I wanted to enter to the life of sobriety, I had to change the way I see myself, the world, and the people in it. And by shifting states of consciousness, by listening to the sounds and training with those sounds, it was able to take me to a different state of consciousness where I was able to see things from an objective way, from a different perspective, but also from a very loving and compassionate way as well too. And that really helped me to really enter to a life of sobriety, enter to recovery, and really having the passion to share that tool that really helped me, which was sound healing, to start looking at life in a different perspective. And the meditative sounds that we use during the sound healing session, it promotes healing from chronic stress, muscle tension, physical pain that we feel in our bodies, feelings of anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress, sleep issues, and different other stress-related chronic health conditions that we experience in our life. All those different types of emotional distresses that I reach for the alcohol, the heroin, the cocaine, the prescription opiates to alleviate. And like I said before, even though it gave me that temporary sense of relief, it caused more negative consequences for people like myself that has been impacted by addiction. So it's sound healing is really one of those modalities that help us to be still, connect to our inner landscape, connect to our inner wisdom, connect to that inner GPS to help us to navigate through life in a way that works best for us.
Yes, a lot of big topics there you just danced around. Because yeah, sound does have multi-dimensional effects and benefits.
Yes.
And one thing I was mainly hearing is sound like the sound work helped you tap into those inner resources for your
Yes.
own, fortify your own, the core of your own being, rather than depending on external substances to numb or black it out. Is that fair as a simplified one-liner?
Absolutely, yes. And using sound healing into my life now. It's been over 14 years since I found freedom from alcohol and other drugs, but I still get stressed out. I still get overwhelmed. I still get aggravated. I believe that's part of the human experience. But today I have healthier tools to deal with life on its terms instead of reaching for those drugs, reaching for those substances, alcohol, to numb me out from all the pain that I felt at a very young age and all the stress as well too.
Yeah, 'cause that's dealing on, I guess, what we'll call the levels of psychology and consciousness and
Yes.
spirituality, I guess, ultimately.
Yes.
But do you have any thoughts about sound working on like a literal physical level? Because recently particularly I see this guy Andrew Huberman. I seem to see clips of him everywhere on various social media, neuroscientists, and he talks about yet another element of addiction, a very complicated phenomenon, but talking about how it sort of messes with your dopamine reward system. Like, a
Hmm.
hit of cocaine doubles the baseline dopamine like 2.5 times, but then it you know dies off and leaves you craving more almost instantly.
Hmm.
But I've seen studies on how sound and music also boost and spike dopamine. So that's the physical neuroscience physiology thing. Have you ever thought in those terms, or have any other thoughts on the literal physical body effects of sound?
Yeah, I mean, we have an inner pharmacy within us, and there's natural ways for us to release those feel-good chemicals like dopamine and all these different other, neurotransmitters that's within our bodies. And sound helps me to do that. Certain music helps me to do that. Cacao helps me to do that. So there's different natural ways that we can release those feel-good chemicals within our bodies, which I think is a very beautiful thing. And my friend, Nikki Myers, she's the founder of Yoga and 12 Step Recovery. She's the one that often says that our issues live in our tissues. And I find that to be so, so true. The trauma that we experience in our life, those emotions that we suppress or repress, it's in our bodies, it's in our muscles, it's in our tissues. Our cells have memory, and our body keeps score of all of our experiences we go through on this journey that we call life. And the sounds, vibrations, and tones and frequencies from all the different tools that I utilize during my sound healing sessions, it penetrates to the cellular level and helps to release some of that stuck energy or stagnant emotions or stress or trauma that gets trapped in our bodies. And oftentimes I experience people releasing that stress and trauma that's trapped in their body in the form of tears, which is a very, very beautiful thing, particularly living in a society, in a culture that kind of conditions us to suppress our emotions, to suppress our tears. When able to release in a form of tears, that's a very therapeutic and healing process for us to do. Some people get different tingling sensations of certain parts of the body. I believe when there's any stagnation within our bodies, the energy, the chi, the prana flows freely. Once the energy from all the different healing tools that I utilize, they break up that stuck energy or stagnant emotions, allow the energy to flow freely within our bodies. Some people get different colors may come up to the conscious awareness. Colors associated with the energy centers we have in our bodies, the main energy centers we have in our bodies, and so much wisdom and insight are within those color systems. I believe that can really let us know what's going on in our life, what's going on in our bodies as well. Different thoughts up to people's consciousness during a sound healing session. So, from my experience, a lot of people are relaxed, but they're energized as well too. And the sounds, the vibration, it can release those neurotransmitters, those chemicals in our bodies that makes us to feel good. those the opiate-like chemicals we have in our body that helps to numb the pain when we feel the pain, physical pain or muscle tension within our bodies. There's countless times when I did a sound healing session for someone that had aches in their knees or aches in their bodies, and after the sound healing session for about like 45 minutes to an hour or so, they feel like the pain is gone because the body is releasing those chemicals to help us to deal with the pain, help to eliminate the physical pain that we may feel in our bodies. So I'd love to learn more from that perspective from the neuroscientist that you mentioned, because I believe it's so fascinating how sound and other modalities, other plant medicines, other things we can utilize to help us to release those natural chemicals we have in our bodies.
Yeah, well, we live here at the footsteps of Google University. I was just
Yes.
over the weekend just Googling, like, music and dopamine, and there's all sorts of scientific studies getting to that topic of, how music and sound boost the dopamine level that can
Yeah.
be another edge to, recondition your reward system through
Yeah.
music and sound.
And it's
But
so powerful. That why people use certain substances and behaviors to kind of numb the distress that they be feeling in their lives. Whereas now they can go to other holistic practices that give them a positive effect instead of that negative effect that a lot of chemicals and a lot of substances like heroin or cocaine or alcohol gives to a lot of people. That after effect, that negative consequences. Whereas sound healing has little to none side effects for many people. It has a lot of positive benefits for a lot of people when they experience a sound healing session.
so now my mind was just going back to the real world front lines, because as you mentioned a couple of times, you have gone back to prisons and recovery treatment centers to share your work. Just curious how your sound offerings have been received there. Can you think of any particular examples of specific sounds or experiences that people reacted well to?
Yeah, it's for me. It feels so good today to walk through the doors of the prison, through the front door, instead of through the back door with shackles and an orange jumpsuit on, and able to get all my sound healing tools, in the prison is just amazing. It just goes to show that the Department of Corrections here in Connecticut, they really believe in holistic practices. They really believe in sound healing to get clearance, security clearance, to bring the crystal bowls in, to bring the Himalayan singing bowls in, to bring the gong in, all the different healing tools that I utilize during a session. I really, like to shout them out, and kudos to them for believing in me and really having the opportunity to really bring sound healing, a place where I learned in prison, to other men and women that's incarcerated there as well too. And I do sound healing groups for a smart recovery program. And it's so interesting, the dynamics. It happens pretty much all the time. I go into the prisons, and I'm setting up all my sound healing tools. I got the Himalayan bowl. I have the crystal bowls, and everybody like, what are we about to eat something? The guys is like, what's going on here? So they looking at me kind of like, what the heck is this? And what really helps is when I share my story. I share a little bit about my experience that I've been to prison and how sound healing helped me in my addiction and how I've been free from alcohol and other drugs for many years. So that brings their guard down, so to speak. And when they bring that guard down, I'm able to connect with them, and able to connect with them. They're open to experience something new, because there's only been a couple of times when I actually went there, and the men that's incarcerated, they said that they experienced sound healing before, but the vast majority of people never, experienced sound healing. So they don't know what to expect. So, I start off, with a guided meditation. I played the Himalayan singing bowl, and, I get people to a relaxed, calm state, kind of surpassing that monkey mind for the first 10, 15, 20 minutes. Then when I start playing the crystal bowls, that's when people just really, the responses I get when I play the crystal bowls, and after say like 35, 45 minutes when I bring people back. And they was like, wow. Like, they can't like, like fathom, the places that they go, how relaxed that many of them experience that sense of relaxation being in prison. Because oftentimes we have to have our guard up, so to speak, always be on edge. And we're constantly in that stress response. Just in general in our society, but particularly being incarcerated, where we're in that sympathetic dominant state all the time. So therefore, to be able to relax, some guys they actually fell asleep during the sound healing session, which means they would relax, and it's just the responses I get from the people after the sound healing session when I check in with everyone. They was like, that was so relaxed. He'd come back to the cells and do this all the time, and just little comments like that. Just it just shows that they need this relaxation and tools. And I kind of share different tips that they can go to, especially once they're released. They could go to YouTube and type in sound healing. They have different array of sound healing sounds that you can listen to with your headphones. And one of the practices you could do while in your cell or in your dorm is humming, and that's a very powerful tool that, Jonathan Goldman speaks on often. And is really ways that we can, stimulate the vagus nerve within our bodies and help us to reduce high stress levels. And that's a form of sound healing, vocal toning, all these different tools that we can utilize our voice, which is one of the most powerful healing instruments that we have. And utilizing our voice to activate and stimulate the relaxation response within our bodies to help us reduce the stress levels is a tool that we can use while in prison, And so just telling the men and women when I go to the prison about that and tools that they can utilize, they really, really appreciate it. And I remember playing the cushy chimes, and one of the gentlemen that was in prison, he said, hearing that sound, it brought me back to my grandmother's porch. And listening to that sound of the chimes, it was just so relaxing, so calming. And it brought me back to my grandmother. He mentioned that his grandmother's no longer alive, but he felt their presence during that chime sound healing session. So it's just so powerful, and sound is so powerful, and just having an opportunity to share with people that may not have accessibility to these modalities, such as prisons, such as detox centers, such as mental health facilities and addiction treatment centers. That's my passion, and really bringing this medicine that we share to people from all walks of life, but particularly bringing it to those populations of people. Because my main goal, the job, is to really bring more of an alternative, holistic approach to the behavioral health system of care.
That is brilliant. Thank you. And I couldn't help but think of that theme of what I was mentioning earlier, back to the validation of the real world results. I imagine
Yes,
going back into these challenging, harsh environments and people
yes,
still contending with this stuff that you've lived through.
yes.
If you went in there and did your work and your audience there did not find it to be real and valuable, I imagine they would give you a hard time about it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And that's why it's important for me to kind of share, my story and where I come from and the why I do what I do, which is very, very powerful and point to do. And also, tell them by myself practicing meditation and sound healing, allowing that to be a vehicle for me to go within and start to see things from a different perspective. And all those emotions that I suppressed under the influence of alcohol and other drugs, they was coming up for me while I was in prison. And to be totally honest with you, Alec, there was a lot of drugs in prison as well too. But I made that commitment to myself, that commitment to my daughter, to not consume any drugs at all. And by practicing these modalities, those emotions came up for me. And that's why I'm happy that I had, these tools such as sound healing and meditation and yoga, but also creative expressive arts like poetry. And poetry was a great practice for me to kind of like process my emotions in a very, therapeutic and healing way. And if it's okay, Alec, I'd love to share a poem that I wrote while I was in the drug treatment program that was very therapeutic for me then. And if I could share it right now, it's very therapeutic for me to recite it as well.
Please do.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And the name of this poem I wrote while I was in the prison program is called Eyes of a Silent Sun. Look into my eyes and tell me what you see. Is it a lost soul with no control, trying to be free? As I look into the mirror and stare into my eyes, I see all the anger and self-hate, hypocrisy and lies. I see resentment, frustration, embarrassment, and pain. I see jail bars and fancy cars as I cruise down memory lane. I see the feelings I repress, going back to childhood. I need to let go of those feelings. I would if I could. I see the hurt that I caused to the ones I love the most. I see my brother on his wedding day as we celebrate with a toast. I see the good and bad times that I experienced in my life. But it's so hard to let go of all that bitterness and strife. There's a sense of sadness when you look into my eyes, like the ones you see when a close relative dies. But this death is not physical. It has to do with the soul. It's that morbid feeling we get when our spiritual energy is low. It's like nothing matters anymore, like that day when I was fired, feeling depressed and weak. Can't sleep, but I'm so tired. I'm tired of all the pain, the hurt, and the rain, from that cloud that keeps following me. Sometimes I think I'm insane. But when I look out the window and see the beauty of the lake, it reminds me of good times, like when I was 9 and things were fine. And with the sunrise, I can feel the presence of the Creator. When I look out my window, I see me in the beauty of nature. I'm a part of God's creation, nature, and humanity. The love and spirit that's in Jesus is also in me. So I learned to love myself and others just for who we are. And I learned all about this love looking out my window with jail bars. And for me, I learned about love in a very unusual place, in prison, behind bars. And by practicing sound healing, allowing that to be a vehicle for me to go within, I was able to see that shame and guilt that often keep people like myself in that very vicious cycle of addiction. But I was also able to move past that shame and guilt and connect to the true essence of who I am. And I believe the true essence that each and every one of you are. That essence I'm talking about is that unconditional agape love. Now, for me, love is more than a human emotion. I believe that love is a vibration, it's a frequency, and it's also our natural state of being. So once I was able to understand that the same loving divine essence that created the sun, the moon, the stars, all the beauty of nature, it created me, it created each and every one of you. And that allowed me to shift my mentality, the way I see myself, the world, and the people in it. And I believe like healing is all about recognizing the wholeness of who we are, because we're more than just our physical bodies. There's a mental, there's emotional, there's a spiritual essence that makes up the totality of who we are. But oftentimes our traumas, our addictions, the poor choices that we made, it makes us feel so fragmented, so disconnected to that inner essence, that inner love that dwells inside of each and every one of us. And by practicing sound healing and listening to the sounds and just really touching my soul on a very deep, intimate level, it made me realize that all the poor choices I made in my life, all the harm that I caused, all the bad things that I did in my life, that I'm still worthy of love. Because deep down to true essence of who I am love. And that allowed me to just really look at life in a different perspective when I was able to really work on that inner love for myself by practicing modalities in my life, taking care of my well-being mentally, emotionally, spiritually, as well as physically. I was able to share that love to other people in my life, whether it was my family members or friends or strangers or people that, I come in contact with. And it's been a practice. It's an ebb and flow for me, and it's all part of my healing journey, because for me, it's not about, perfection. It's about progression. And I believe that life is about learning, growing, and evolving. I learned from my so-called negative experience in my life, and the knowledge I obtained from that allowed my consciousness to evolve. And as a result, I became more consciously aware of the choices I make in my life. And I'm so grateful for all those experiences that I went through in my life, because it made me the man that I am today. It made me the sound healer, the sound practitioner, the sound worker. I'm able to work with other human beings that's dealing with trauma, that's dealing with mental health issues, that's dealing with addiction issues. Because I think we all know somebody that's been impacted by mental health and addiction. And one of the things that keep people from getting the support, the healing, the treatment that they need is stigma. And I think one of the ways that we can decrease the stigma is talking about these human experiences, talking about our struggles, talking about the different pains that we go through in our life. And when we're able to talk about it, we realize that we're not the only ones that's going through these difficult times. And we need each other to support one another because I believe we're designed and wired for community and for connection. And I believe that connection is the cure for feelings of loneliness, isolation, depression, and different other types of emotional distresses that we experience in our life. And it's all through my experiences being incarcerated that I found sound healing and I'm able to share with other people from all walks of life. And for that, I am truly, humbly grateful for.
I don't even want to comment on that because I would just bring it down other than say thank you for sharing that very inspiring perspective and that beautiful verse. I think there's something in that for everyone, perhaps, so regardless of what their challenge may be, because everyone is bearing their own secret cross, whether it's something
Yes.
intense like a major substance addiction. For someone, it might be like, I can't stop eating chocolate bars, and that might seem like nothing, but it's for them, it's their
Exactly.
thing. So all of your messages that you put forth, I think hopefully there is something that everyone can relate to and take good food from. So thank you.
Thank you, Alec. Thank you so much again for this opportunity to be here and to share on the Shift Network and be a part of this Sound Healing Summit and to really connect with people from all walks of life and let people know that there's so many different tools and modalities that can help us to deal with different types of mental health, addiction, or trauma issues. And sound healing is one modality out of many that we can really work with. And I'm so grateful that I found this modality and I have this modality in my life, both professionally and personally.
Right on. Well, happy to have you here. But as time is ticking by here, and we will continue talking a little bit more about sound, but
Mhm.
maybe if you'd like to share, let's go right into an experience of some sort of
Yes.
sound, an example of the type of work that you do.
Absolutely, yes. And at this time, I will use one of my Himalayan singing bowls that I received from Nepal. And I invite all of us now, if you can, if you're not driving, and if you're in a safe space, if you want to get into a comfortable position, whatever that means for you, whether you're laying down or sitting in a chair. And if you're sitting in a chair, you're more than welcome to either close your eyes or bring a soft gaze to the floor, or you could keep your eyes open. Whatever feels most comfortable and safe for you at this moment, I invite you to do so. And as we take this time to simply just be. And at this time, I invite each and every one of us to take a nice deep breath in and a long breath out. We'll do this 2 more times. Take a nice deep breath in and a long breath out. One more time. Take a nice deep breath in and a long breath out. Releasing any stress, any worry, any anxiety, anything that no longer serves us. We ask for it to be released, and it is so. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Well, beautiful. Thank you for sharing. The sounds always say 1,001 words, and thank
Yes,
you.
so true. I have a friend of mine that, she did some mentorship with me, and she's a psychotherapist, and she's incorporating sound healing within her private practice as well. And it's so funny when she told me she uh, did a little like 20-minute sound healing with her with their client, and the client mentioned like, "Wow, this is better than talking," because the sound, like you said, it just says so much. Just listening to the sounds, and not only you could hear the sounds, but you could feel the vibration, and it really could feel it on a soul level, which is very, very powerful. And it just speaks to us. It speaks to our hearts. It speaks to our souls.
There you go. I love that story, sharing it with the therapist, because
Yeah.
so I've probably said this elsewhere on this summit, but that's another one of the major powers of sound work is how it just gets right in there. It bypasses the whole who, what, when, and where layer. It just gets right down to the energetic, emotional heart of things
Yes.
and creates shifts and changes. And then
Mhm.
you can come back to that layer and process and talk about it. But a lot of the main work is that
Yes.
below the chattering mind, in the deeper foundations of being as you have worked with, experienced, and share. Because as we noted at the top, you go around sharing this work, wide variety of professional settings and treatment settings.
Yes.
If people would like to find out more about your work and where you are presenting, where's the best place to go?
They can reach me at kelvinbyoung.com, which is KELVIN, the letter B, YOUNG.com. And you're more than welcome to learn a little bit more about myself and the work that I do. And if you want to contact me directly for a virtual session, as well as in person sessions here in Connecticut, as well as New England in the tri state area, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
And I also noticed a new site that I think manifested since we spoke last, the Soul Care Love LLC. And it looks like you have a new partner that you're working with there. Would you like to
Yes, yes,
say a little bit about that organization
absolutely.
and
Yes.
her? Tell us
You
about her
know,
work for a minute.
Yes, absolutely. My life partner and business partner, Maria, she's really came into my life at a very perfect time. She's also a sound practitioner as well too, and she works with sound. And the beautiful thing about her, she's Afro Latina, and a lot of the sounds that she grew up with in Puerto Rico. The sounds of nature, the water sounds, and all the things that we believe in, she was practicing at a very, very young age, and when sound found her, and she reconnected to the practice of sound work or sound healing, and really started getting deep into the practice of utilizing singing bowls and gongs and buffalo drums and all the different tools that we utilize during our session. It just, our passion is really bringing this, particularly to the Black and Brown communities. She loved working with Black and Brown women. Um, she does a lot of women empowerment. And, I had a lot of misconceptions about sound healing, meditation, yoga, because I didn't see a lot of people that look like me. I didn't see people of color practicing yoga, meditation, sound healing. So I really didn't think it was for me. And one of my passions, our passion, is really bringing this to our community, to people of color, and to kind of demystify some of the misconceptions that many people may have about these holistic modalities. And whether it's people feel that it's against their faith or something that other people do and not them. We're busting all those myths and really, putting a face and voice to sound healing and sound therapy. And, representation does matter. And, being a black sound therapist, sound healer, sound practitioner, it really matters to see people that look like themselves doing this modality so they're more open to experience something new. And that's kind of like our mission, is to really bringing this to different people from all walks of life. We do sound healing sessions once a month in Windsor, Connecticut, and we really cater towards the BIPOC community, on the Black, Indigenous people of color, and to really bring healing tools and practices to our community, because we think about all the different health indexes where cardiovascular diseases, cancers, diabetes, high blood pressure, all these different health issues that black and brown folks is at the top of these chronic health conditions. So our goal is to really reduce these health indexes within the black and brown community, and to really introduce people to different tools to help them to deal with stress, tension, and physical pain that they may feel in their bodies. And we're just loving it. So you're more than welcome, everyone, to check out our website, soulcarelovellc.com, as well. You can learn a little bit more about our work that we do together as well.
Outstanding. Thank you. And unfortunately, we only have a couple minutes left. And because this is a big topic, I just have to toss my two cents on it. Because I think that's brilliant, that mission. Because so many of the most profound teachings and traditions related to sound, music, and rhythm, come from non-European cultures and traditions. Whether it be Africa, the deep, profound knowledge of sound and music and voice that comes from India, and shamanic traditions from Central America, South Africa. So, so bring it. So that's just a beautiful mission as well. Where current, I guess black and brown communities, as you call them, people of color, maybe now have been disconnected from those roots, but there's so much there to loop back and reconnect with and merge synergistically with all the insights from science and technology and Western music. So it's a beautiful melting pot of a time.
It's so true, Alec. And it's so powerful that you said that, because that's the name of our sessions we do, is reconnecting to our roots, and we're, we come together, and, we let people know that a lot of these practices come from ancient Kemet or modern day Egypt, and the different practices they had in our cultures in the western parts of Africa, the whole continent in itself, how these rituals and practices with drumming, all these different sounds that's been utilized. And so we have that desire to reconnect people back to their roots, and that's our goal and that's our mission. And I just really honor you for highlighting that and seeing our view and our goals. I appreciate you.
Yeah, that's the mission of sound and all of this work these days. Get beyond the divisions and polarity and conflicts, and bringing people together in greater harmony. So instead of being this individual separate notes on the staff, like we're all part of one global symphony, and working with the sound work.
That's right.
Everyone
In sound, we are one. Yes.
There we go. So I think that's a beautiful note to conclude our meeting here today. So once again, thank you very much, Kelvin. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Alex. It's been an honor and a pleasure. And thank everyone as well to joining us here today, and hope you continue to really enjoy our Sound Healing Summit. So thank you all. Thank you.
Yes, and as you noted, thank you to everyone out there listening, because without you, it would be silent. Your energy and attention really make this all come to life. So we always appreciate having you here, and we invite you to come on back, because there's more to come here on the Sound Healing Summit. And we'll see you next time.